Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and here with me every episode this season is my partner in crime, Dave White. Dave, how are ya?
Hello, Scott. I'm fine. Once again, how are you?
I'm doing great, my friend. I'm hitting some pitches today.
Yeah. We had some gorgeous weather today. Outside 67 and 0 humidity in Massillon, Ohio. It was gorgeous out here.
You gotta love it. It's mid 70s here in Las Vegas, did I say? I can't even remember now.
Outstanding. You're going to burn up pretty quick. You better stay inside.
Yeah, it's going to be in the hundreds before we know it, and I am not looking forward to that.
Well, at least you have your Uriah Heep tapes, records, cassettes, and reel-to-reel to listen to, right?
I don't even need to leave the house. I can have groceries delivered so I don't have to stop listening to the band, and I'm good to go.
And the ubiquitous MP3 file, all at your disposal.
I have it all. I do have to get some reel-to-reels, though.
Well, there you go. I'll send you an old tape deck. It doesn't work. You fix it, but buy the reels.
Because I'm suddenly mechanically inclined like that.
Just like that.
I like how I have that.
What's on the agenda for today, my friend? What are we doing?
We have got a classic from Demons and Wizards, Traveler in Time.
Ah, good. I love that song. Let's do it.
Of course, this is the live version, of course, from Alive in 73. I always thought this was a really interesting song. It just goes in places that, unless you're kind of used to how Uriah Heep works, that you would never expect is just an average song to hear on the radio. It doesn't play like a normal song.
I like it. It's not supposed to be a normal song. It's Uriah Heep's song.
Exactly. It's very, very much in their writing style, which I think is one of the things I like about it the most. Is it's just it's unexpected, and they've done a lot of that over their 52-year career.
Yeah, this is a cruncher. This one starts off at 100 miles an hour, doesn't quit till it's over. This is a great tune.
Well, let's get right into it. What do you say?
I'm driving down the highway with the radio on. Let's go.
You know what I should do, though? If I want this podcast to work, is I should probably share my audio with you so that you can hear it.
That'd be a fantastic idea.
Isn't that nuts how that works?
There we go. I see it.
I've been a podcaster for like 5 years. You'd think I'd know all the steps involved in recording a proper show by now.
Well, you had never had me before. It gets weird when I'm on the show. That's all I got to say.
Well, you'll also be happy to know that I changed my background to not snow.
I see. Now it's not. Now it's a thunderstorm.
Exactly. It is that time of year for everyone but Nevada. All right. Here we go. Here's some Traveler in Time.
Right.
We can do two songs from the Demons and Wizards album for you. Yep. First one's called the Traveler in Time. So.
Wow, that sounds really nice and powerful.
Whoa. Yeah. Full distortion by Mick right off the bat. Gary Thain was just tugging on those strings. I could feel it.
Yeah. Mick is coming through loud and clear in my left ear. I'm hearing the organ over on the right. And it's really a great balance between the two.
Yeah. That's a great way to start. You just start. There's no intro. You just go.
Yeah. There's no build in this song whatsoever. One thing I did notice, and this, because you're not a drummer, you might not have picked up on this, but when each pass of that riff starts, it always starts with a snare drum. There was one early one there where he did not start with a snare drum, and it made me realize how powerful starting it with the snare is, because it really, that one part just felt a little bit weaker because that hit wasn't there.
It missed one. Yeah. I've noticed that. In the studio version of Steelin', just for a point similar to this, there's a passage where Gary Thain forgets to do there's like a descending thing in each verse of Steelin'. And at the end of the song, as they go repeat the same thing 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, toward they get toward the end, he misses that, and you can feel it. He kind of forgets to go to the next chord, so he just stays on the first one until it all comes back around, and then he picks it up again. And he left it in there, so it's the same kind of thing. Mistakes do happen.
But I love the humanity of leaving that kind of stuff in, as opposed to today, where they would just either copy and paste it from another pass, or they would have them come in and overdub it. I hate that everything is so perfect nowadays.
Me too. I much like the raw stuff. And as I said before, that's why I like live albums so much, because there's so much emotion in them, because they were doing it live. It wasn't overtracked 11 times. Let's repeat it 7 times so we get it right. This is basically off the cuff. It's like what we're doing. You're not going to edit this unless I sneeze or something. So other than that,
yeah, I might even leave that in just for reality's sake.
Awesome.
I got to put one in for you. Well,
carry on.
I think about songs like Gypsy, and when you listen to Gypsy and you think about the fact that they didn't even have click tracks really back then, how precise that is. It's still human. It's still a little bit off, but it's pretty precise for people that don't have a guide. There was no correction. It's really impressive.
You'll have a field day when we talk about the beginning of the live version of Gypsy, because that's what you're talking about. Oh, no click track. That's really off the path. And it eventually syncs up with itself, but when it starts up, it's just what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love music that sounds like human beings played it. All right, let's get back to the song.
Right.
Every day I have to look to the sun to see where it was that I got the feeling that there must be a time I'll get a chance to go home. I'm so tired of being alone. I'm just a traveler in time, trying so hard, paid by my car.
I don't know where Gary Thain got his energy, but that man has been all over the place in every song we've listened to so far.
That's what Gary Thain did. Yeah. I keep saying it's a song within a song. He's so melodic.
Mm-hmm.
It's such great runs and fills and things. Yeah.
Yeah.
He really knew where to start. So he ended up in the right spot creatively, colorfully. Yeah.
Very much so. I really love how David sounds on this too. He sounds like he's singing a little bit higher than the studio version of the song, but it sounds really good.
It could be. Yeah, it does sound good. I noticed, of course, that zeroing in on Mick, I noticed that that heavy distortion isn't there, even when it's loud. I think it's just straight through the Marshall. But this is a great mix to it. It seems like as the songs are the order they put the tunes in, Mick and Ken are getting closer and closer to each having more of a prominent, obviously Sunrise is, different, but like the last couple of songs up to this one, it seems like they're kind of getting closer now to being more solidly pronounced within the mixes. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but Mick is getting more full and they seem to be gearing up toward the big 3, which I think are July Morning, Gypsy, and Circle of Hands. So maybe this was a different night. I don't know, but it sounds a little like the thinness is going away as we go through these songs. It's getting more and more full. And those 3 songs can be the fullest songs on the whole album. So we'll see where that goes.
I think you're absolutely right. The only complaint that I have about this is I think that the organ was a little bit loud when it's during the verse, because it's kind of drowning David out just a little bit in some of those frequencies. But apart from that, I think it sounds phenomenal. And I think you're right. I think that Mick is definitely getting more prominent, and the balance between the two seems a lot better now.
Okay. Awesome then.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens next.
All right.
First, I was waiting till I'm set free.
Boy, those Leslies are spinning, aren't they?
Aren't they? I'm watching your screen, obviously, because we can do this together.
Right.
And I'm noticing how limited and compressed that very top and bottom sections are of those, of those waveforms. This thing is maxed out. That song, the way they produced this, is maxed out. That is really something.
Yeah, but yet it doesn't sound like it's over compressed. It's everything's cutting through. It doesn't sound bad at all. I mean, normally with that kind of compression, you start losing dynamics, but this was very well done.
They're like the master of dynamics. I mean, this thing started really quietly, that last verse that we went through, and then it ended up just pegging the meters. And that Leslie's sound awesome. They really do. I wish I knew how they recorded them, but they sound just great.
I've never recorded Leslie's. I've worked with them on live gigs, but I've never recorded with them. And I can say just miking them live is kind of a pain enough, because you got to really find the sweet spot, where it comes through.
Somebody knew what they were doing, because he's always had such a unique Leslie tone and Leslie characteristics. I mean, his don't sound like anybody else's. John Lord's didn't sound like Ken Hensley's.
Right.
They were very throaty, and they were very swishy at the same time, and they were kind of mid-range, but they never lost that lovely. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the swish. It's like the swish everybody talks about, those swirling Hensley Leslies, and I think he only had one, but I don't know. I just wish I knew how they did it, because it just sounds so awesome.
Yeah, and they might have put multiple mics on it from different angles and balanced them. But like you said in one of the earlier episodes, they had some 80 gigs under their belt before they started this recording. So you figure by then they've got to have it dialed in. And if they've been using the same live engineer, I mean, this is album 5 that they're touring with. So they'd been at it for a while.
I know there's one on the lower rotor, and I know there's one or two up on top for the treble rotors, so for the horns. But whoever did this did a great job.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it sounds clean. It's not like they were so close that they were distorting. I mean, it's a really great capture.
David Byron doesn't seem to be straining at all, does he?
No, he seems so relaxed.
This is after how many gigs that year, and he's just rolling right along.
Yeah. And, I don't know how heavily he was drinking at this point, but he sounds 100% there.
Yeah. He seems like he's right on the mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really does. Well, I don't know about you, but I can't get enough.
Let's go. Fire it up.
I love the organ there.
Yeah, he's got those rotors going so slow. Though, I mean, you can hear them. They go. That's how slow they're going before they fire up. And those things take about, the way he's got it set up, they're like 8 to 10 seconds before they're going full speed. The bottom one, anyways. They just simply swirl. Mick is like full blast distorted. Now he kicked that pedal on because he sounds different.
Yeah, and of course, I'm a big fan of the drums during that section too. That's just fun stuff to play as a drummer. Just that constant stuff on the snare where it's like a buzz roll but with accents that make it a little bit more interesting. I've always liked that part of the song. I want to ask you now, when you recorded at Ken's studio, were these the Leslies that you were playing through?
Same type. Sure.
Okay.
He had a Hammond B3. He had a 122 Leslie. It wasn't driven through a guitar amp or anything. It was just Leslie by itself. Yeah.
Right. And see, I think that's the difference too, is because John Lord got his sound by putting the distortion through, or putting the Leslie through a Fender amp. He ran them through Marshalls. Was it Marshalls?
Yeah. Everybody ran them through Marshalls. That was the cool thing to do. So you have a Marshall on top of a Leslie cabinet, and you, I don't know if you take out and don't use the amplifier that's part of the Leslie, and you just run the Marshall, and that's how you drive the rotor and the horns, or if you run it through the preamp down or the amplifier in the Leslie cab. I don't know how that's done, but if you look at stage pictures, there's always 2 or 3 Marshalls behind Ken, and 2 or 3, and I guess there's 2 or 3 Leslies underneath them, so maybe they were using 2. I don't know if you lose the Doppler effect and all that crap. I sure don't think so, because this is, if you had 2 of them, I don't think that would make a whole lot of difference, other than it would sound wider.
Well, if they aren't synced together, like if they don't start up at exactly the same time, if one's a little slower than the other one, that could really change the sound.
Yeah. But that's why I think this is one, because it's so distinct. I mean, you hear that one thing start swishing around, and by the time it's going full blast, it's very cutting. It isn't like a nice, gentle Leslie sound. It's a very cutting Leslie sound. It's very distorted, and it's got edges to it. I mean, you can hear them go around and around. So.
Yeah, and I really like the way that once Mick kicks the distortion on, how it complements the organ so well.
It's very full. It's very full now. He's on full blast, I think, and I'm sure he's on an SG the more I hear this thing. So yeah, they were full tilt boogie in this song.
Well, we got a part coming up that's going to feature a little bit of Mick as we move forward through the song.
Yep.
The way that sounds, it almost sounds like a talk box.
Yeah, it does. It does. That's Mr. Wah doing the wah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Wah doing the wah.
I love the tone he's getting, though.
Yeah. It's just like full blast. I mean, you have a 100-watt Marshall and it's up all the way, and that's what he did. And that's why everybody likes 100-watt Marshalls. I mean, they're too big to play anywhere, basically, but then you had to have one, And Ken said that it was always I think that was Ken. He said something about it was also it was you that said that about who had the biggest amps. They had a contest, who had more amps on stage. Yeah.
I mean, it got to the point where the back of the stage would always just be a wall of Marshall amps, but they wouldn't even have speakers in them. They were just the cabinets that, to look impressive.
You have to picture in your mind what Mick Box must have looked like doing this, because it isn't the Mick we see today, obviously, right?
Right.
It was 50-some years ago. And he's got this scowl on, and he's just got that SG, and he's just like ripping that thing up, and he's hitting the mic stand with it, and growling on his hands and knees. And that must have been some hell of a concert.
And it's really weird when I look at older pictures of Mick from, the mid 70s around this time. There's very few pictures where anyone in the band is smiling, like they're trying to be rock and roll guys and just straightforward looks. And now it's hard to find a recent picture of Mick where he's not smiling.
He's always described as like a smiling Cheshire cat, but back then he never smiled.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
It really is. Of course, he had the 70s mustache back then. And
yeah, right.
Of course, so did David. David had a classic mustache.
Yes. So did Tom Selleck. Oh, he still has his. Yeah.
He does, yeah. He was almost Indiana Jones.
That's right. That's right.
All because he signed his Magnum PI contract before he got asked. Otherwise, the world could be completely different as we know it.
Oh, no. I wouldn't be here. If that was the case, I wouldn't be here. I'd be somewhere else.
Oh, God. Now, this part, this last section that we listened to, I imagine that's just whatever Mick felt like playing on any given night is what we hear in those solo sections.
Definitely not. He was doing the same thing as Gary Thain was doing.
Oh.
Mick was doing the same thing as Gary Thain, same thing as Ken.
No, I mean, just when it's just Mick playing. When everyone else drops out and it's just Mick.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. He's just sliding up and down the keyboard. Yeah. Or the fretboard. Yeah.
But I would imagine that was different every night.
Probably close to being the same, but different. Sure. Cause he's not trying to be real exact. He's just hitting all the frets as he goes by, as he slides by.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. But that sound.
Same idea every night, but probably not sounding the same when he actually does it.
Right. That sound he's getting is just so massive.
Yeah, it's just going. Yeah, and that could have been. I won't say on the mic stand because it would take too long to do it that way. He was just flipping down the neck, just
Right.
just going for it.
Scowl on his face and everything. All right. Song's
That's
almost
right.
done. So let's hear what it brings next.
Right.
Easy enough on this one.
And that's where our song cuts off on the album version.
Can you imagine singing like David Byron? If you could actually do that, how good that would feel to get that off your chest. Like you actually do it, how good that must feel.
I would love to.
What a range. What a range.
There was a time when I was young where I could sing some of those songs somewhat decently. I mean, nowhere to the level of David, but I think in songs like Salisbury, Traveler in Time, I could sing. Every once out of maybe 70 times I could probably sing Poet's Justice pretty decently. But I mean, nowhere to be able to just wake up and be confident and go, this is what I do.
And doing it live.
Oh, yeah. Night after night.
Nowhere to hide. You just go out there and do it. But he was really belting that out just now. That was like as high up as he could probably go almost. That was really cool.
Yeah, and it's one thing to hear somebody do things in the studio where you have time to, sit back, you can do take after take all you want, you can perfect it. It's another thing, and this is where musicians really prove themselves as on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed that song. I think that it was a good it was good because it was different from the studio version, but it stayed respectful to the studio version, but yet it differed in ways that didn't change it so much that you were like, what the hell song was that?
Yeah, true to form. I'm sure as they toured, I'll bet they made changes to it because I don't know when they had time to practice. They were always playing on the road somewhere. So as they toured, they probably changed them up because all the songs in this concert, in this Birmingham concert, they're all different than they were live. Or excuse me, they're all different live than they were on the records. And major things are changed. Where do you get into Gypsy? And where do you get into the synthesizer solo on July Morning and the way that they did Circle? That's all different. And the next one we're going to do is different, but maybe the least different of all of them.
Well, and we'll talk about this more when we get to July Morning. But if I remember right, in the studio, Ken did not do that solo.
He did not. He did not. Manfred Mann did it.
That's right. So it's going to be interesting to hear what Ken would have played.
I have heard it 372,000 times. I'm telling you, it is probably one of the best synth solos I've ever heard anyone do.
Well, we're only a couple episodes away.
It's just so melodic. But
oh yeah,
we'll get there.
Well, yeah, we'll get there very soon. Actually, two more episodes, and we're at July Morning.
Should we cut this episode and carry on, or just carry on?
No, we're gonna say goodbye for today, and then we'll be back on the next episode with Easy Livin' as the band is going to roll right into it. We are not. We will be back on the next show. We'll see you guys.
All right,
Cheers.
Why don't you call me later? We'll hook up. Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!